Edward Wu, one of the big bosses of Kengan Mega. Today I'm going over everything we currently know about him and some predictions for the future. Hope you enjoy. Many people don't remember this, but his initial introduction was in the final chapter of Kengan alongside Zia G and the Tiger Vessel. We see that they're in Hong Kong, so China of course, as they're all members of Worm. We see them talking around the table about Oma not making it, or them assuming Oma had died during the tournament. And Zia G taking out Ranjo and the Tiger Vessel taking out Long Min. Then we have Edward just chilling there. We see that he is quite bigger than the two of them. I currently think Faye is the Tiger Vessel, so of course Edward Wu is bigger than him, and Zia G we've seen multiple comparisons size wise between them. But remember, Zia G is a lot taller than a lot of people really initially expect, so Edward Wu is in fact one of the biggest characters in the series if he is indeed taller than or bigger as a whole than Zia G. But we have them talking to one another. Edward Wu saying that back in the day Long Min and the Tiger Vessel were equally matched, but over Long Min's time around the Guardians, the Tiger Vessel was able to overcome him, which was pretty cool. And yeah, we just see that quick conversation, and of course them three walking with evil in quotations as they're walking. But yeah, that was in the final chapter of Kengan and the initial introduction of this giant absolute beast. Now, the new information we got about him in Kengan Mega, we learned that he's the leader of the Westwood faction of the Wu clan. So the Wu and Kure clan pretty much work like this. We have the Wu clan main branch, then we have the Westwood faction of the Wu clan, then we have the Kure clan. The main branch of the Wu clan and Kure clan are pretty much good to one another. They have no, hostility, while the Westwood faction is hostile towards both the Kure and Wu clan. And we also recently found out that Edward Wu killed the person who was going to become the new leader of the Kure clan. We don't know actually his relation to, for example, the current leader Irio or any other characters. We just know he was going to be the new leader, but he was killed by Edward Wu, and that's why Irio has sent out a pretty much kill on sight order on Edward Wu. And that's the whole reason why in the Alan and Raian fight, Raian instantly went serious when he saw Edward Wu to kill Alan Wu and head to kill Edward Wu as well. That's the reasoning for all that. After recording the initial, segment of the video, I found the exact panel, so I'll just read that out now. It was a worm extermination, a joint operation between the Wu clan of China, the Kure clan, and the Westwood faction. So all three of them were working together, or were meant to work together. But as we know, Edward was already colliding with the worm, so he pretty much betrayed the, Kure and other Wu clans who he was, partnering with for that mission. That's why the kill on sight order has been sent for Edward, and his whole reason for being part of this purgatory tournament, or being there in general, is to destroy the Kure clan. And to do that, he sent Alan Wu to fight most likely against Kure Raian in the tournament and hopefully kill him. But as we know, that didn't work out too well for him, and now we're going to see a war between main branch Kure versus Westwood faction, and most likely some worms as well. And apart from that, we also got some more history about Edward and how he was kind of close to the Tiger Nico or the other Nico, and was the person who taught the Tiger Nico the basics of the Yuhan, which then resulted in the Tiger Nico to pretty much give it to some people he was training the Formless with, such as Liu Tian, as we saw in the Purgatory tournament against Kano Agito. So yeah, and then from there, the last time we've seen him is pretty much walking away from Kure Raian with him saying the following: "That boy killed my other half. So what should we do with him?" And as we saw throughout various points, he does enjoy beating on Zia G quite a lot. But what is he referring to by his other half? As we know, Alan Wu had this special version of the removal or Guhan, which allowed him to pretty much unleash the removal from the first Wu. I'm guessing Edward Wu has gone through a similar training to unleash that, so he's going to have a similar Guhan to Alan Wu. And as we know, due to the environment that the Westwood faction Wu clan members grew up, their removal actually makes them a lot bigger, and as a whole they are a lot bigger than the regular Kure. So when Edward Wu unleashes his removal, whether or not it's going to be special or not, he's going to be potentially like as big as Julius or something crazy like that. We don't actually know his like weight and height, but he's already seen like one of the biggest characters in the series. Once he pulls out that, he's going to be like insanely big. Can't wait to, you know, reveal that. But now to go over some predictions and what I think is going to happen. So by default, Edward Wu is going to need to be a top tier fighter, considering Kure Raian is pretty much close to the top at this point. We had Lo Long pretty much directly comparing him to Kanagito, who in my opinion is at the top of the verse currently. We also know over the 2 years between various training matches between Kure Raian and Omar that currently Raian is in the lead, so you can assume maybe Raian is above Omar as well, and he's most likely close to top tier or the peak of the verse. So regardless, Kure Raian is a top tier in the verse, and Edward Wu will by default need to be, but I think that's, you know, as expected. But how do I think the fight or war is going to play out? I think we won't see any of this until the tournament's actually over, or we may get it as the final match is occurring, with me personally thinking it's going to be Omar versus Fade, the Tiger Vessel, for the final match. So we may cut between that fight and Raian versus Edward potentially. That could be something cool. But regardless, I think the fight between him and Raian will be mostly equal around the start until Edward actually pulls out his removal. Whether or not it's going to be special or not, it could be, considering he said that boy killed my other half, or maybe Alan is actually Edward's brother. But regardless, he's going to pull out his removal and start dominating a serious Kure Raian. And they will be quite relative, but we'll see that Edward Wu is actually stronger slightly than Kure Raian. And we'll get to a point where Edward is about to kill Raian. We'll also see like various other like Wu versus Kure fights going on all around the place as these two are like fighting. But eventually, as Edward Wu is going to kill Raian, we'll have Irio stepping in and actually dying in the process. And I also expect the head of the main branch of the Wu clan to die in the process as well. And once those two are dead, we may actually get some development for Kure Raian. But even if we don't, I think after that we'll have Kure Raian actually defeating and killing Edward Wu. So by the end of the war, I think Irio will be dead, the leader of the, you know, main branch of the Wu clan, and Edward Wu will all be dead alongside various other people. But I do think Kure Raian will live, but virtually got defeated by Edward Wu in that fight. And yeah, that's what I think is going to happen. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Hope you enjoyed today's video. As always, shout out to the people who support the channel via the Patreon. But yep, that's it guys. Peace.